Great. Hi, everyone. If I haven't met you yet, I'm Rosa Maimi. I am a director in the membership area of AGU, overseeing operations and programs. Great to see everyone today. So as you saw from the agenda, and I'll go over it again here briefly, we are going to spend a little bit of time talking about AGU 25. I know that some of you were on council, also heard some of this information. But we're going to get into a little bit of the section specific types of things that we want to make sure we share. But before we get into the agenda, I want to turn it over to Amber and then subsequently to Kristen to see if either of you want to chime in with some comments.
Sure. Thanks, Rosa. Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining live today. I think I know a lot of you, but for the new faces here, I'm Amber Levy, VP of Affiliation Engagement and Membership. And as you know, we've been collecting a lot of feedback from members about how to move forward with AGU 25, and we're still having lots of discussion around that, but we are just doing our best to navigate extremely unusual times. So as Rosa mentioned, we'll be sharing some information today that hopefully will be helpful, but just appreciate your flexibility and all of the input and feedback that you've been sharing with us. It's very, very helpful. So Kristen, I'll send it over to you.
Yeah. So, hi, everybody. I'm Kristen Averett, Executive Vice President for Science. And I just want to echo everything that Amber just said. So much has been happening. And with the uncertainty that really is a core part of our lives these days, we just really appreciate all the input that you all have had and everything that you all are doing as volunteer leaders to support membership and our colleagues and friends. And we're looking forward to talking a little bit about AGU 25 and kind of where we're at, particularly given I'd say the rocky seas that we're all enduring. So thank you so much.
Thanks, Kristen. Why don't we go ahead and take a look at the agenda? And I just got a note saying my internet is unstable. So Amber and Josh, watch out for me freezing. So, all right. So you all saw this earlier from the email, but we're going to give you a few updates. But one of the pieces of feedback we got from some of you from the last call is that you all seem to like the breakout sessions as a format. Again, I say this every time, but we want to make sure sections are talking to sections. This is your space among other spaces. So I may be a little blunt at some point during the discussion, say, hey, we got to get into the breakout so there's enough time for you to do that. But we did pose a question that was in the agenda. I'm going to read it here. We'll get back to it again when we do the breakouts, but think about it as we're having our discussion. So the question for your breakout is, as we move forward with meeting innovations for AGU 25, what are some of the key ways you think we should be continuing to communicate and share information both tactically and strategically, and how can section leaders help lead these? So again, we will tell you how that will work when we get there, but just maybe keep that question in mind as we go through. Now let's get into some of the information about AGU 25 and sections, so we can go to the next slides. Okay, so there are a few things we wanted to highlight here. Obviously, there's a lot to talk about, right? But there's going to be plenty of time through the year and other meetings and one-on-ones. One of the things that's changing for AGU 25 is the executive committee meetings. So, in the past, these have been done on site at the annual meeting. This time, these are going to be done virtually. Actually, this predates me, but I think this is something that was done during COVID as well in 2000, where the AGU staff will support you virtually with Zoom calls and Zoom links, and will help you schedule these 2 weeks prior to AGU 25. So we can certainly talk about that more specifically in terms of how we set that up. And I should mention all of these topics here, we're kind of lightly going to talk about them. There's going to be guidance and feedback kind of throughout the next few weeks on these things. But just wanted to let you know that we're here to support you, particularly with your section executive committee meetings, and we'll talk about that more and provide some guidance. I do want to turn it over to Sarah from the meetings team to talk about the section receptions a little bit. Sarah.
Oh, thanks, Rosa. Yes, thanks everybody for having us today. For the section receptions, we have listened to all of our different feedback that we've gotten from the different membership groups. So thank you guys who participated in all of that. We've taken all that data and we will be holding all of our receptions on one night. It'll be on Tuesday night. We're still working through all the details and we'll be able to share that information with you, as Rosa was saying, in the coming weeks. But note that all receptions will be held on Tuesday night.
Thanks, Sarah. And the section event planning form. I mentioned this because interestingly enough, up and like a few weeks ago, I think a few of you reached out to me or Josh and said, "Where's that form?" As you all know, we use that form or survey as a way to get sections information in terms of logistics, financials, and your kind of overarching strategic goals on what you want to do at the annual meeting. We're still going to do that section form. I know it's later than usual. We're going to try and send it out this week. It will look different. It will be a little skinny down, kind of, reflecting the scaling up or down of the annual meeting and how that goes. So it may look a little different, but we are here to support you in how you complete that form, looking at financials, that type of thing. So just wanted to give you that heads up. The other thing that we will give you more guidance on in the future, but we want to let you know that there is going to be an opportunity for expanded networking spaces at the conference. You all may be familiar with the pods that were there last year, where they're kind of, Sarah may need to describe them for me, but it's kind of smaller spaces where you all could basically get on the app, the meeting app, and schedule those spaces. But we're also going to have larger, not huge, but larger spaces of lounges where you can do that as well. Sarah, I didn't know if you wanted to jump in with any of that.
Yeah, you got it. So we've taken the concept of our pods that we've had pods available within the poster hall and within kind of the networking area inside near registration. We will continue to have those. They are semicircle, double-sided areas that feature soft seating and a screen that you can plug into your computer, project anything. So we'll have those in addition to these larger lounges that we're still designing. And the lounges will be for meetings of 10 plus people. Again, we're still designing them for size and everything else, but they will be located in a new networking hub that we're also designing that will include additional networking and community spaces for the meeting.
Thanks, Sarah. So more on that, and my team will provide some feedback, like logistics, how you can sign up for these things, but also how you can use those spaces. Maybe there's some ways that we can, add member value here and provide some feedback on how you can network, some things that you can do in those spaces while you're at the meeting, kind of based on some of the other things we're doing that Sarah mentioned with like AGU Central or how that gets designed. So wanted to surface a few of those things kind of quickly. We're still working through the guidance that goes with those things. So why don't we go to the next few slides, and I see there's a few questions. I think I saw Steve and I see something from Sonia. Let me go through these next couple of slides and then we can kind of go for some questions before we get into the discussion, the breakout. So we wanted to remind you about funds that sections have. This isn't different, this isn't new, but I think that folks aren't always aware, especially if you're newer kind of to the section leader role, or the section leader role, the things that are kind of available. So as you recall, AGU grants $5,000 of annual use or lose funds, got to do them this year, in support of student and early career activities. There's some examples here. I should mention that those funds are not just for annual meeting, right? They can be used throughout the year, and we can always talk about innovative ways for you to do those things. But the typical things, examples, are student early career events, caregiver grants, student travel grants, comp of conference registration for your section student early career reps. That's not everybody. That's basically kind of the people who are student early career that have some leadership role with you all. Then we also have the section funds. That's the next one. Next slide. Yeah, similar things, but these aren't only for student early career, but other uses. So student early career events and other categories of folks, student travel grants, other types of grants, promotional items, that type of thing. So what I do want to mention is I'm guessing this list of things will generate a lot of questions. And what we will do is as we get questions from you that are broadly applicable, we'll share with section leaders, we'll bring them to upcoming meetings to discuss in a broad basis. But as we've done the last couple of years, Josh and I and others will be available to do one-on-one section calls with you all, whoever your planning group is, for the annual meeting. And we can bring in someone from Sarah's team as well to meet with you and kind of go through your specific goals, because my guess is you all will have really specific questions, some of which I may defer to that. But with that, why don't we open it up to a few questions? There isn't a slide after this, Josh, is that right? Meaning related to this?
That is correct.
Yeah, okay. I just make sure I caught everything. So let's go to Steve, and I'll take a quick look at also at the what's in the chat. Steve, go ahead.
Yeah, so I'm struggling to understand what you mean by combining the section receptions. Obviously, the whole point of a section reception is that it's a chance for the section to get together, and it's not clear whether this just means that the sections will be meeting together as usual and sharing a bar, or whether this is just like an icebreaker with everybody mingling, which is not really going to give the section its identity.
I'm happy to take that unless you would, Sarah.
No,
Go ahead.
go right ahead, Kristen.
Okay. So Steve, there are a couple things in there. One of the things is we're looking at reducing costs this year. It's incredibly important. Receptions are among the most expensive things that we do. And so one of the things that we've been looking at is how to meet the moment and connect with our theme of Science Connects Us. And so the concept is to have individual spaces for each of the receptions. And if people who want to stay with our section can stay in their section, and people that want to do the mingle can go ahead and mingle. That's essentially the idea, and it would leverage all of the space in the conference center that we already have. So we're trying to create a moment for connection and a moment for connection in terms of just internal discussions that you need to have with sections. I also saw the question about the business meetings. These expanded networking spaces are all about, you can go reserve them whatever time you want, whatever's available. And they're also intended to be right-sized, because we know we're going to have attrition at this meeting, given some of the limitations on funding and travel. And so we'll be able to accommodate different size groups as we get a better idea of the numbers and who might be there for your sections.
Yeah, so a couple of follow-up comments there. For the other sections, I'll note that GPE has taken to holding its business meeting in conjunction with the section lecture, which has actually worked out pretty well, because we've been given a big time slot for the section lecture, and there's plenty of time to have the GPE awards presented and so on. And that way we've got AV provided by AGU rather than have to pay for the AV for our own reception. And we've got people's attention. They're not making a lot of noise. So I think that model is working pretty well for us for our business meeting. And I'm putting that out there for the other section leaders to think about. And then I have to gratuitously say, GPE used to get sponsorship for its business, for its reception, which AGU has shut down. So I must say that if you're trying to help cover the costs of the reception, refusing to take donation money for the reception is perhaps counterproductive.
Okay, thanks, Steve. We'll do the best that we can to accommodate and work with what the expectations are. We just can't please everybody right now these days. And I think we're all trying to chip in and do the best that we can to meet everybody's needs, but also recognizing the constraints that we have. But I appreciate that. And, our team will do our best to work with you.
Thanks, Kristen. I'm going to answer one thing from the chat real quick, from Janet. The use or lose funds, yeah, their calendar year, yes. Sonia, go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to follow up my question. So yeah, in 2021, because of COVID, we had that one great big reception, which was what it was. But before that reception, we were given, just access to oral session rooms to schedule that business meeting. So is there some reason why that's not available to us. I don't feel like a lounge that I've been advertised is gonna fit 10+ people is gonna meet the need that for our section. So I expect there to be more people than that we want to present this to. I do like Steve's idea. I mean, especially with the AV cost is a smart way to get around that issue. But I guess I don't understand why we just can't use an oral session room like we did in 2021.
First off, using the session rooms, it's warm bodies, it's people in the room, it's time, etc. And I'm not saying no to that at all. I'm saying, yeah, we'll work with you the best that we can to try and figure this out. I mean, it's an idea. It's also somebody's paying for it, whether it's us, whether it's you. But we have a limited budget, and we all do, right? And so we'll do the best that we can to work with everybody. So I understand that everybody has their culture, their needs, what they've done in the past. We're just asking for some grace if we do need to change some things up, but we'll do the best we can to accommodate.
Great. Did we get everything in the chat? And are there other questions? Yeah, Janet.
Yeah, sorry, I've just got some need some clarification. So this might be obvious, Kristen, but by individual spaces for the receptions, do you mean separate physical rooms or just one big room with little spaces with spaces allocated for each section?
Combinations thereof. Again, we're doing a lot of things on the fly because we're getting more and more information every day, and some of that information makes things more certain, some of it makes it more uncertain. And so, some flexibility I would appreciate as we're moving forward, doing the best that we can. But if you'll recall, that convention center is also very long. So it's actually not terribly difficult to parse out spaces, whether they're rooms or we're using, those weird little hallways that it has. I mean, there's a lot of opportunity here to design it to meet the needs and make sure that people can mingle if they want, but stay with their buddies if they want to do that.
And you'll discuss that with the sections about what they think they might prefer their sections to have.
I think when you all have your discussions about what you'd like, submit your application, we'll do the best that we can. I'm not saying we can do everything, certainly not this year. But we'll do the best that we can.
Thanks.
Thanks, Janet. Thanks, Kristen. Any other questions? All right, let's get into the brainstorming then, or the breakouts. Josh, do you want to pull up the slides so we can remind folks how that works? So we have our discussion question like we did last time. We had a question. And by the way, Josh is going to jump into your breakouts and post this question into your chat. So don't worry about not having this right in front of you this second. But again, as we move forward with Meeting Innovations Review 25, what are some of the key ways you think we should be continuing to communicate and share information tactically and strategically, and how can section leaders help lead? So let's go to the next slide in terms of how this works. Some of you remember this from last time. You'll have 15 minutes in your breakout groups. Pick someone who's going to take notes and someone who's going to report out. After the breakout session, each group will have 5 minutes to report out on what's discussed. And again, this is another among other opportunities for sections to talk to each other and share information. And we will have looks like given where we are with the agenda, we probably will have some time for open mic at the end too. So if you continue to think of questions based on this question in your discussion or some other things earlier on, we can do that. Is there another slide here, I think?
No, the next slide's for the when we do the report out.
Or report out, okay. So, Josh, I think you're going to be directing people to their breakouts, however that magic works. So I'll leave it to you to get that going. We should just have staff lingering out here. Is that what I see?
Always happy to linger with you guys.
Oh, thank you. All right. And Josh, is the recording still on right here? Do we want to turn that off?
Yep, I'll turn that off right now.
Great.
Changing. The first point we made was that transparency is going to be really important. And so I think it'd be worth AGU being very upfront about, we're trying to save costs because of the changes that are going on, and making that really clear is important. I have two other things. One is that timeliness of communication is going to be really important, given that abstracts are open right now and just for the next month. It's really, I think people need to know and perhaps be encouraged that we are still here and come to the meeting, but they need to know it now and not get that information a month from now when it's too late. And then the third point from our group was that if the sections are being asked to do the heavy lifting on communication, that's perhaps not the best strategy. We were talking about how difficult it is to really know how to reach your section members. We have a variety of different ways. So it really, AGU itself needs to be using all the channels with members and the broader community about encouraging people to come to the meeting. So those are the main points from our group.
Thanks, Suzanne. Group 2.
I want to say that was our group, and Matthew was on a roll. Kirby was on a roll right at the end of our thing. I don't think we formally nominated someone, but I might nominate Matthew. He was making a good point there.
Oh, thanks, Eric. Yeah,
yeah, you're welcome. I'm happy to chime in too.
Yeah, no, I pulled myself off that, and I did not know we were group 2, so I'm glad you spoke up. I didn't even bother to look at the groups. Suzanne said a lot of things that we are thinking. July is a really critical month for so many people for decision making, and we felt like we really need to know exactly what we can say and what we can't say, particularly this month. There's been a little bit of confusion with some of the emails, or it feels like we're getting an email that we can then communicate, but then we got that other email that said don't communicate it. So anything that's firm would be great to help us with our constituents in our different sections. There was also some discussion about perhaps extending the abstract deadline, considering this is a very strange year, possibly even separating the abstract deadline from the abstract fee deadline, knowing that we're going to have a lot of people who would like to submit an abstract, but may have to withdraw it later and can't be reimbursed for that because of where they're working. And then, let's see what else. Eric, anything come to mind? Those are the two major kind of points.
Yeah, I think that that covers it. Anyone else in the room? I know Noel was in there, a few others. And anything else?
There was a confusion about whether the decision on the 4 versus 5 days was final or not.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay.
Do you want me? I can answer the 4 to 5.
Yeah, go ahead, Sarah.
So the 4 or 5 days, it's fully dependent upon the number of abstracts that we receive. So we're going to right size the meeting based off of the scientific program that we have in front of us. So we won't be making a call on that until after the call for abstracts closes. So that's why we say the possibilities out there, but then again, that's meeting the moment in this unusual year to ensure that we're right sizing given the scientific program and submissions that we have. So it's a moving target right now. We don't have a clear answer on it.
Yeah, thanks, Sarah.
But with a moving target, I'm guessing your business model has a cutoff point where you've got to make a hard decision, even knowing that people may have to withdraw their abstracts.
That all comes after the close for the abstracts. So we're still abstracts close the 30th of July. And with all of that, we still have the the time frame that we need in order to make the decisions that we need to make at that time.
No, but you probably also know that there may be a percentage, like 10% of those abstracts may be withdrawn much later in
Correct.
December.
That's all factored into our,
Okay,
our
that's
business models where we
all right.
factor in
That's what I
exactly
was looking for.
that.
Yeah,
So
all right.
perfect. Yeah.
You know
thank
what you're doing. Yep.
No, we appreciate it. No, we appreciate it. Yeah.
Thanks for that. Group 3.
I can speak if others don't want to, but yes, we didn't nominate for someone formally for Group 3. The first thing is from Group 3 was to try to tone it down with the corporate nonsense speak. When you use the word innovations and things like that, we know what it means, and people know frequently what it means. I think being open and honest with the community that you're trying to save money is important, and to communicate it that way. When I see this, it irritates me, let alone the members as a whole. So I think the corporate communication strategy needs to be rethought. People are not regular customers out in the ether. The other aspect that came up was there's a potential for a lot of unhappiness if people perceive they're paying a large fee and getting less for it. So that very, very careful thought has to come around, especially with regards to making the meeting shorter. There is the potential for the talks to go back to 15 minutes. There's plenty of ways of making space. So again, the word right sizing is another example of one of those words. I hate that word. For example, I'm going to Goldschmidt conference next week. It's a much smaller conference, but yes, lasts a full week. So there are abilities to use that time. The thoughts that our group had in terms of communication might be thought of as a back to basics approach. In other words, trying to remove some of the superfluous pieces that AGU has and really focus on the presentations and either the poster and the talk presentations, and to push that way. And so that AGU communicates over the next month that is what its primary focus is going to be. It's like a focus distraction or reduction in distraction and focus ability. So anyway, that's just I think a thought. If anyone else from Group 3 wants to add anything, I'm sorry I didn't get it.
Thanks, Wayne. That's really thoughtful. Thanks for that feedback. Let's go to Group 4, and I'm also going to put Josh Weinberg on the spot that after we go to Group 4 to see if you want to respond to any of this, and Sarah as well. But Group 4.
Yeah, I guess we made me at the last minute when we realized we needed somebody. So a few things. Building on what Matthew said, there's the idea of the section leaders communicating things is made a little problematic by a couple of things. One is it's not totally clear to us what is confidential information for council and what is actually ready to be made public. The other thing is we don't fully understand some of the things that the AGU leadership are proposing. For example, what is a non-research abstract anyway? And we've already discussed that we don't understand what the combined section reception model is going to look like. Obviously, the information that this meeting may be held, maybe a shorter meeting, I guessed it was going to be dependent on seeing what the abstract submission looks like, but that's information that can be communicated, but there's no real answer until we know what the abstract submissions look like. Following up on that, we note that the informal discussions we've had about a shorter meeting have been met quite positively by our members. I suspect they're assuming that the day that gets shortened is Friday, so they can get home early. But we don't know that for a fact any more than we know that the meeting will be shortened. But we can guess that people won't be terribly upset about being able to get home early after, what is a pretty intense week, especially if you're on council starting on Sunday. So I think that there's a case to be made that a centralized source of communication will maintain consistency and perhaps avoid ambiguities. Another thing that was mentioned was that the new AI tool to tell you where your abstract belongs is all very interesting, but it is also important for people to be told how to browse sessions in the conventional way. And it was pointed out that if you go to the first timer abstract submission guide, the only option is to use the AI tool, and there is no instructions on how to browse sessions in the conventional way. Bearing in mind that, the whole model of AGU is you call for people to submit session proposals, and then they go out and try and canvass people to come and submit to their sessions, because the more people that submit to their sessions, the more likely they'll get an oral slot, et cetera, et cetera. So, I think people don't think this new tool is a bad idea, but it shouldn't supplant the, traditional way of choosing your abstract sessions. And something that Lisa started talking about right when we were cut off is this issue that has also been brought up, and that is the decision to submit an abstract is tightly tied to the decision to come to the meeting. And yeah, as you well know, I mean, some of you well know, I approached leadership suggesting that the abstract deadline be pushed back because of that. And I notice in the chat that that's, been mentioned as well. I also can report to everybody that the pushback I got from AGU administration was that, it was not really possible to do that given the complexity of things that had to happen between the abstract deadline and the meeting. And I buy that. But I think the message that the abstract submission is going to be tied to the decision to come to the meeting is something that's critically important to think about as we strategize to try and maximize meeting attendance. I think that's pretty well what we discussed. Anybody else from 4 want to chime in?
I'd like to just add like a simple fix with how to find a session would be on any website that you all have that says ready to submit, or the first time abstract submitter guide, or any of this, is to have a parallel thing in addition to that new AI tool, have a different button right next to it. Want to browse sessions first? Go here. Here are your instructions. Ready, want to try out a new tool for a session finder? Great, you already have that set up. But when I am thinking about submitting an abstract, I actually want to browse the sessions to see what are the sessions, because I could write an abstract on one of several different things, and I don't have the abstract first sometimes. So even the abstract submission resource guide that exists on one of these sites makes it look like the first step is write your abstract first. And that's not necessarily the first step. It might be browse the sessions first. So I think you'll be more welcoming to more people if you recognize that there are different ways to get to that endpoint. Thanks.
Thanks, everyone. Those are really great pieces of content, really, really helpful and some actionable for sure. I wanted to see if some of the staff want to address any of these pieces before we kind of do an open mic or continue. I know Josh Weinberg, we have 2 Joshes. Josh Weinberg, there's a lot about communications, and Sarah, I don't know if you want to talk about abstracts some more as well, but Josh, go ahead.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Rosa. And yeah, no, thank you all. These are great suggestions and insights. I'm Josh Weinberg. I head up communications and marketing here at AGU. So you're speaking my language. And that language, I hope, is always sort of the straight poop and really just being very, very honest and straightforward with folks about all of this. And actually that feeds into what Kristen, you were just saying about, the traditional browsing. So that's our goal. That's what we intend to do. It's a good reminder to just make sure and sort of check ourselves for any corporate speak. We are trying to sort of weave into a lot of this still a very uplifting, inspirational, sort of happy gathering, even amongst all the challenges. So that's a big goal of ours. And I will just also point out that through all of this, because our theme is about connecting, it kind of speaks to what you're talking about as far as sort of straightforward, really getting into those moments of connection where people found one another, could feed off of whatever work they were doing, and really taking away the bells and whistles and the laser light show or whatever that is. I will point out we have great plenary speakers that we're looking at. But we are hearing and reading the room, as it were. And so, we're not going to be going crazy with all of that production because it's really important to convey what our speakers are saying, what you guys want to hear, what you're also sharing with colleagues. So that's going to be a big part of what we do. But I really appreciate all the suggestions, and we'll definitely incorporate all that.
Thanks, Josh. Sarah, did you want to add anything?
Yeah, no, I just echoing kind of what Josh just said. Thank you guys for the feedback. Yeah, the AI tool is a new thing, but obviously we don't want to get rid of what has the tried and true that has worked for years on end. So we will definitely work to rejigger that to make sure that folks know that both options are still fully available to them, that they can go the traditional route of browsing all the sessions first, or they can, try the new shiny new toy that we put out, which is the AI. So thank you for that feedback. We'll definitely get that rejiggered as quickly as we can. And I know we've got several requests for the session abstracts to be extended. We've looked at it every which way and we have talked to the program committee about it. Unfortunately, just looking at schedules and timelines and when these hard deadlines that we have, the complexities that we have to go forward, there's just no way to extend it this year. Believe me, we definitely looked every possible way that maybe we could potentially do that. And unfortunately, given the tight window that we've got this year, there just wasn't a way. So we have heard your feedback. We would have loved to have been able to address that, but unfortunately, given the circumstances this year, it's just not possible. So unfortunately, that deadline will stand as it is.
Thanks, Sarah. Any other comments? We've got about 5 minutes. Any comments or questions, or did we miss something in the chat anyone wants to surface?
Yeah, sure. This is Mike, SPA. I attended a conference last week, and those from NASA Goddard that wanted to come, there were over 30 people that wanted to come, and only 5 of them got travel approval at 6 p.m. Friday, the Friday right before. And so they couldn't get their travel until Monday morning arranged, and so they missed the first day coming to the actual meeting. So an AGU, I don't know how to handle that, except perhaps maybe honoring, for those people from such places that submit an abstract, maybe honor early registration fees if they are not allowed to register or so on. And the other thing that was restricting them is that because that conference I was at had a small fee for the virtual option, that counted as you needed travel approval. So yes, even though government, efficiency right now says you must be in an office, as a federal employee, they're also saying you can't go to travel because, can't have in-person. Anyway, it's confusing.
Well, thanks for sharing that, Mike. I mean, those are kind of insights from the field we need to know. So Yeah, thank you for that. Any other comments? Questions? Yeah, Maggie.
Yeah, I guess I'm also I'm at the USGS. I'm also federal government, and I think just sort of to expand on what Mike just said. I had a similar experience attending GSA Cordilleran meeting this spring, where like we didn't know until like the very last minute whether or not we'd be able to go. GSA actually waived our conference fees, but even then we had to do like an extra step to say that we were able to get that benefit of the waived fee. And then we only got permission to attend for one day. We couldn't go for it was so just expect that like federal employees might be a big like gap this year because we might not just be able to come.
Yeah. Thanks, Maggie. Enrico.
Yeah, I just wanted to add, I mean, this might sound very counterintuitive given all the CATS funding and so on, but I mean, we're very much focusing on the US federal employees, which, I mean, we don't have control out of that, right? I mean, whether they have permission to travel, whether they have funding and so on, but there is we're trying to be more and more international. There's a lot of potential attendees from Europe, India, China that can travel. They're allowed to travel, but the conference fee is just very high. So lowering the conference fee will allow a lot of people internationally to actually maybe be able to travel. And I mean, again, we don't have control about the domestic travel for federal employees. There's nothing we can do about that.
Thank you. Stephen.
Yeah, I got to respond to you, Enrico. I'd love to believe what you just said, but the fact of the matter is whether people can afford to come to the meeting or not from Europe, they're saying they don't want to. They just don't want to come to the US, regardless of the fees. So I don't think we're going to lure them here by subsidizing their meeting. Unfortunately, that would be lovely, but it's there's a bad taste in the mouth of our colleagues overseas right now, and I'm not sure how AGU can wash that out.
Thanks. And there's some interesting comments in the chat as well. I encourage people to look at. Sudhir.
Yeah, no, just a quick note on that as well. Like international travel, yes, that's a good concept, but I think even all the travel visa restrictions will actually make an impact, right? The number of visas people will get will be very limited. So I will definitely recommend thinking about that line as well, right? Because getting the number of visa will be much more stricter, much more harder to get this year compared to last year.
Okay, thanks for that. All right, we are almost at time. We're going to continue these monthly meetings, of course, and of course, this will be a topic through all of them. But as you all have seen, I've been soliciting topic ideas, so I'll do that again. This is your meeting, as I always say, and the agendas are always based on what you tell us you want to talk about. So kind of keep the ideas coming. And as I mentioned earlier, we'll send out the form this week. But we are happy to have one-on-one meetings with you and your section team who's got goals for the meeting and talking about, how we can support what works, what doesn't work, especially as Sarah tells us what evolves over time here. So thanks for all of your volunteerism around this. I know these are not the right word, interesting, unusual times. So thanks for hanging in. And we appreciate all you do in your usual lives, your volunteer lives with AGU. And with that, we'll see you next time and probably talk to you this week is my guess. See ya.
Thank you.
Thank you.